first of the two falls in question is the fall of Lucifer. Lucifer in heaven was one of the three archangels. So if you think of the chain again, he was on the next highest link in the chain, right? He was one of the angels, and he wasn't just any angel, he was one of the top three angels in terms of power and position, right? But he rebelled against God. Being the top of basically the rest of creation wasn't good enough. He wanted to overthrow God. He wanted to take the place of God, so he rebelled against God, and for that was cast out of heaven. That leads us to the second fall, which is the fall of Adam and Eve. Now, Adam and Eve were living in the Garden of Eden in paradise, right? They could eat of the fruit of any tree except for one particular tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the argument that the serpent used, which is later identified in the New Testament as the devil, the argument that the serpent used to convince Adam and Eve to disobey God was, the serpent said, if you eat of this fruit, you will know what God knows. You will, in effect, become God. So in other words, the two falls that the Elizabethans understood as being the beginnings of history and the beginning of the world becoming in the shape it eventually would become, both of them were driven by pride. Both Lucifer and Adam and Eve enjoyed a great position. They enjoyed great prosperity. They as far as the chain goes, they were in really good shape, but they weren't content with their shape. So wanting to be more than they were, they rebelled against God. So what those two have in common is the sin, and Elizabethans understood it, the sin of pride. They both wanted to be something that they were not. Now the question is, what does that have to do with the plot of Hamlet? Well, think of the murder that begins the cascade of violent events that eventually ends up with, at the end of the play, most of the people in the kingdom dead. It begins with a single act of violence. A brother's murder, reminiscent of Cain killing his brother Abel, right, in the book of Genesis. A brother's murder born out of jealousy. Claudius enjoys a great position in the kingdom. You know, he's the king's brother, right? So in terms of people, he's not number one in the kingdom, but he's pretty high up there. But he's not content with that. He wants more. And so he kills his brother to obtain his brother's position, his brother's power, and his brother's wife. And that sin of pride, that sin of violation of the great chain of being, results in the kingdom's falling apart. And of Hamlet's being given this great task of having to put things right. He says at one point, time is out of joint. O cursed spot that ever I was born to set things right.